Yeah, it's got to be interesting too, like you being a baseball player playing and like there's no, I guess, like baseball IQ advantage you got over other guys. Everyone's that much into the game and everything, right?
Yeah, everybody knows pretty much what's going on, like what's the
Yeah.
trick and all that, like pitching sequences. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty different playing somebody like that actually plays the game.
Yeah. Listen, man, thanks for taking some time today. Um, Chat a bit about the mental side of baseball and your experience with everything. What was kind of your earliest recollection or earliest memory of the mental side of baseball and kind of realizing that it has a huge role of playing in your performance on the diamond?
I'll probably say like when I had like a bad game and like having to like bounce back like the next day.
Yeah.
I feel like that tests your mental side more than anything, or like making an error, making the next play, just like because like high school actually scouts would actually say they want to see how you bounce back
Really?
like from a bad game or like an error or something like that. So because if you take your glove out there on the field with you, they didn't like that. That was like a
Yeah.
taboo um, for like mental side.
Yeah.
Since you play games professionally every day, if it gets caught up and then one game can turn to five real quick, a bad game, bro, and you don't want to string that together.
Yeah. How I gotta guess it's probably a bit amplified when you're called up to the major leagues, and it's kind of like this might feel like it's your one shot to show them what you got, and you might have one or two bad games. Take me through kind of your mindset after a bad game and how you kind of refocus yourself and bounce back. Is there something you like tell yourself? Is there like certain things you're doing?
Um, I try not to think too much about a bad game. Like, so bad games are definitely gonna happen when you're playing like 162 of them.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna have 162 good games, like no matter who you are. I'll just tell myself the next day, somebody's got to pay. So I go out there with the mentality, it's a new day, new pitcher. Like he hasn't seen me on that day, I haven't seen him. So it's just like a refresher, especially like every day's a new opportunity.
Yeah. That's something I feel like with a lot of kind of the younger kids I talk to, something they struggle with a lot is like they strive for perfection. They try to be perfect all games of their season, right? And MLB, like you said,
Yeah.
162 games, it's impossible to be perfect for that long. And what I
Yeah.
find a lot of the times is the kids, they're almost like a roller coaster, like emotionally. Like one day
Yeah.
they're like super high, the next day they're super low. And I always try to tell them, like, man, you just got to kind of like stay centered and like not get caught up in the ups and downs and just know like who you are as an athlete.
Yeah, you always got to be even kill. If you dwell too much on the bad game, then like I said, one game could turn like 5 to 10. Then, but if you get too high on the good games and then like you don't work as hard, then that can put you in a spiral too. So you just stay in the middle, like good or bad. Just it's a new day the next day, no matter what. So you're pretty much it's a. I had a coach tell me, Steve Springer. He said every day is like opening day. So every day you're like 0 for 0. Like there's no stats. Like every day is a new day, new start.
Yeah. I like that one a lot. Was this kind of a mindset you've always had with you, or maybe earlier on playing high school ball and stuff is something that you maybe struggled with a bit more?
I mean, high school, high school is different because um, I, like high school, you're hitting like 400 or 500. So you're like, when you get the minor league ball, you're hitting like 300. You're like, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Like, because you're so much, you're dominant in high school and like college and all that stuff. And then you get the pros, everybody can play. So you hitting 300 is really, really good. Like 300, you're a Hall of Famer. But people think it's such a like a bad thing or like I'm struggling when it's not the case at all. Like,
Yeah, that's gotta be like it's really interesting when you think about it of baseball. There's so many different levels to it and stuff, and inevitably as you move up, it's going to get tougher and tougher. You're going to like inevitably see a bit of decrease in your stats, and I can imagine that for some people out there, it's pretty easy to get caught up in, like you said, at this level of play, I'm hitting like 400 or 500. Now I'm hitting 300, and that's like just feels like absolute crap or something.
yeah, yeah. Like I've had coaches tell me like if you think about going like 3 for 10 like 1 for 3 for like 3 games. That's great.
Yeah.
But you're used to going like 3 for 4 almost every other game, and it's like that's not going to happen often as much as it used to be. But you could definitely put some like streaks in there for sure. Like when you just blew hot, anything can happen. Like you get the blooper to fall, like guys ain't robbing you or something like that. It just goes your way. But yeah, I just try to tell myself like every like 100 at bats. Like I give myself 100 at bats. Like, all right, what I did this 100 bats, what I can do better the next 100 at bats. So like in a major league season, you playing 162 games, you might have like 600-700 like plate appearances or at bats. So it's like you don't got to dwell on like 10 at bats.
Yeah. Because you want to pick a number that's like not too big where you're not like evaluating yourself too often, but a number not too small where you think like, you have 10 or 11 at bats in a row, and so all of a sudden the world's falling down in front of you, right? You want to kind of pick that optimal number to kind of evaluate yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I remember David Ortiz, he had like a 3 for like, or like 5 for 50 like span where he was getting hits and the media was coming at him like he's like, oh, it's only 50 at bats, like that's nothing. Like, then sure enough, he ends up hitting like 30 homers, 100 RBIs, right where he needs to be, 300. So you just don't dwell on it, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah. Walk me through a bit about. I know, obviously, 8 or 9 years ago, whenever it was when you got drafted, you were a pretty high draft pick by the Blue Jays. So I got to assume there was a certain amount of hype surrounding you in high school and kind of your level as a prospect. Tell me a bit about the struggles or how you kind of dealt with the hype from the media or hype from the fans, or knowing that you have all these eyes on you as the MLB draft is approaching.
Yeah, like I didn't really notice it because like my freshman, sophomore year, I was just like playing around, and I was playing with like the older guys that are getting drafted the year before me. And then like junior, I started doing like those showcases and like all those different like wood bat games and all that. And I was performing pretty well, but like I still had like another year. So like people were starting to notice. And then my senior year comes around where I'm eligible for the draft. And my I remember my first high school game, like I'm getting all these calls from scouts, and then they wanted to show up to my BP. And next thing you know, my first game, I had like 20, 30 scouts in my game. And I was like, this is insane right now. Like, y'all would really want to see like the game right now. Like, it was really coming like every game. They was asking me my schedule. So like, that was kind of like, that was different, like attention from what I was used to seeing. But my travel ball team, we was used to seeing like scouts all the time. So I didn't really think of it as anything, just playing my game. And not trying to play on the outside, because I still had to, I was just focused on helping my team win that in high school. So I wasn't really worried about like scouts and all that.
Yeah. The first time you had a scout, was that kind of ever in your mind when you were playing the actual game, or was it something you're able to completely block out?
I could completely block it out, because most of the time you won't even know who's in the stands. It could be anybody, any day.
It's true.
So, and so there's always somebody watching you, as they always tell you. So if you think about it like that, like you won't try to impress or try to do anything out of the normal with like the player that you are. So I try not to hype it up, because I still got to face that pitcher on that day. Yeah.
When you got called up by the Blue Jays for the first time, I know I read a bit about, I think one of your calls where you were like pretty much your calls, I think you were like scrambling to get ready and stuff like that. It's such like a huge shift in your daily schedule and your routine to kind of get caught off guard like that. Walk me through about how you're able to manage your emotions through that whole thing. Because I think for a lot of people, they could get really flustered or caught up in the moment when they get called up to the major leagues and kind of let it take over the situation.
Yeah, well, mine, it definitely, because I was actually on the phone with my buddies, and the team was in Atlanta at the time, and that's like my hometown. So like I was like talking to my buddies, I was like, dang, I wish I could get caught up so I could play in Atlanta. Like that would be so sick. And then sure enough, like not even like 20 minutes later, I get a call from my AAA coach, Bobby Meacham. He calls me, said, you gotta get to the field like quick. I'm like, what did I do? I'm thinking I got in trouble. Like, did I do something wrong? So he called me, and then they said, you got to get your stuff. You got to make a flight. And like, it was like 12:30, and I had to make a flight by like 1:30. Like, I was like, what? I was rushing. And I unfortunately, I went through security quick and got to the gate at like 10 minutes to spare. So it was close. But I ended up getting on the flight, and all my family and friends were calling me, coming to the game. And it was unreal moment playing at home.
Yeah. Playing with the Blue Jays too, it's a bit of a unique situation where they're obviously the only team in Canada, and there's always like the cliche of like you're representing the country instead of a city when you play for the Blue Jays. Is that something that you kind of felt yourself with your time with the Blue Jays, that you had like the whole country watching you, or again, with everything you've learned leading up to that point, you're able to kind of block out all that outside noise and pressure and whatnot?
Yeah, like playing for Canada, it was definitely different. Because like you said, we were playing for a whole country. We had I think 5 million people watching our games almost every day. So, and especially when the team at the time was like Josh Donaldson, Batista, Encarnacion, like Jose Reyes, and the list goes on and on. So like more people are starting to tune into the Blue Jays at that time, and it was unbelievable time to play on that team. I got to learn so much from them veterans, and they were great for me.
Was there something from the mental side that really stuck out with you from your time, whether it was like with Joey Bats or JD or whoever it is, that really kind of stuck out to you that you kind of keep with you today, that you help push yourself on the mental side of the game?
Yeah. I actually talked to like pretty much anybody I could. I picked the like bits and pieces like that fit for my game. Mm-hmm. I talked to Russell Martin quite a bit about like the mental side, and because he was like on like 10 straight playoff teams, something crazy like that. So
yeah.
Picking from his brain, he always had something great like to say, like, and they would ask us like the rookies and stuff, like, what would you do in this situation? Like certain game situations, like while we're watching the game. So learn what they were thinking like through their head, like seeing it from their side is like way different from what you would expect.
That's something I feel like doesn't get really appreciated as much in the media and everything, is like the value of having leaders and mentors on a team. Because I'm sure you could attest to like how much having those veterans on the team helped you your first couple of years in the major leagues and where you are right now. And I think a lot of people, when they evaluate team, they only look at like the physical talent, but they sometimes forget about like the mental talent, so to say, or the team chemistry that's involved in like mentoring the young kids and how much that can help in their development.
It's huge learning from a guy, like not even on the field, just off the field, because there's a lot of stuff off the field that you won't even know about. Like you get called up, you're like, what do I do next? Like, So it's a lot of stuff. I learned from a lot of guys. Like I learned from Curtis Granderson for a couple months. He was with the team. There was so many people. Like we would go to dinner and they would we could just talk for hours about anything. So learning from an older guy, even if you're in college, learn from a senior, you're a freshman. Same thing applies in high school. So just somebody you could really put on your wing, that's always huge.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Curtis Granderson. Like hearing people talk about him from around the league, he's always said he's one of the nicest guys in the league and everything. It's got to have been pretty special to be in the same clubhouse as such a leader like him.
Yeah, he was awesome, especially for me being an outfielder. And I wish I got to play with him longer, but just the time I had with him, it was priceless, and you can't teach none of that at the end of the day.
Yeah. When you got eventually traded from the Blue Jays to the Orioles, how tough of a pill was that to swallow? Kind of being, you were with the franchise for probably 8 or 9 years at that time, and this is kind of the franchise you brought up with. You're in the whole minor league system, and now you're kind of getting shipped off to one of their division rivals. What was that whole thought process like for you?
It was definitely tough at the time. I remember because I've been so used to one team. All the guys I came up with, played with through the system, and Main thing was like me leaving my friends on that team and the coaches that I like really liked. That was tough. So me going to like the Orioles where I hardly knew anybody at all. So it was like being like the new kid at school. So I was just trying to just do my thing and just try to play ball. But it ended up being like the best thing that ever happened to me. Me going to Baltimore and actually getting a shot to play every day is in the major leagues. It's like, it's always been my dream. So that was great. I'll always miss Toronto, but at the end of the day, me getting to play was like my number one goal.
Was there a part of your game that you had to change, or you kind of focused on more when you were a starter versus kind of in Toronto where you're a bit more of a subbing guy? Or did you try to just really just kind of keep things as consistent as they could be?
Yeah, like my role in Toronto, like I always would think about like game situations, like when I should get ready. Like I learned how to come off the bench and be like a pinch hitter and like a defensive guy. It's a totally different mentality than being a starter.
Yeah.
But I always had a mentality of being a starter since I've always had that my whole life. Yeah. So I always would prepare myself like I was starting on that day, even if I wasn't starting. So not totally ramped up as an intensity as much, but I would get my work in just like I was starting, come in, do my workout, and then just like prepare my body just to get ready for that game.
Yeah.
And then whenever I was to come in.
Yeah. It's almost kind of a little bit like being a starting versus relief pitcher. I mean, you bit different mentality. Your game somewhat is the same, but bit different mentality where it's a relief pitcher, or like you said, a pinch hitter or pinch runner even. You kind of have to be like kind of thrown in the fire a bit, and maybe the stakes are raised a bit more. But it's all kind of in the realm of the mentality of baseball, and they all probably interact and play a bigger role in the grand scheme of things. Tell me a bit about, obviously this season is kind of postponed, I guess, for the time being. But as the season's approaching, walk me through kind of your goal setting process, like how you set goals for yourself for this season. Are you kind of looking at your past stats and like setting goals that kind of improve on that? Or are there people you talk to help yourself set up goals? What does that kind of process look like?
I haven't really set like any stat goals because like this is a totally different year. Like we don't know how many games we're going to play this year. So we could play like less than half the schedule or like a little bit more. So stats are out the window for that, but I was just going to try to see what I could do to hit that next level in my game, like fielding, hitting, like base running, like every aspect of it, like to kind of put together everything. And I felt like I was on the right path of doing that in spring training. And once we come back, I was ready to get back on that next path of hitting that next level in my game.
As an athlete, how did you deal with kind of the season being abruptly shut down for the time being? Because it's got to be like, I mean, we talked about change being called up from the AAA to the major league. Like that's a change, of course, that goes on in your daily routine. But this is like the most extreme change in your routine as possible.
Yeah. Well, at first I was in Florida still, so we didn't know what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. I was just sitting in the house, working out in the house, try to do every in-house workout I could, and then run outside occasionally, just keep the legs going. Then I came back home to Georgia, and I pretty much continued what I did in the off season. I still got a place to like go and like get hit, BP, and all that stuff, and face a couple pro guys like live pitching. So that's there for me whenever. So I pretty much the same thing I've been doing in the off season. So this is kind of like different, but at the same time, I'm kind of enjoying it because I don't get to be around my family as much, and seeing my sister graduate possibly this year will be awesome. And I haven't had pretty much a summer since like 13. Now that I think about it, so it's different, but at the same time, it's cool. Like it's almost like a blessing in disguise, so to say, because everybody has to just keep working. So to keep figuring themselves out. So I feel like it's a good thing.
Kind of having a positive versus negative mentality. You can look at things with the glass half full or the glass half empty. Like, yeah, there's a lot of things that are kind of negative with the season being shortened or canceled or postponed, whatever they decide to do. But like you said, there's a lot of good things you can focus on, and kind of blends into what I always think about the mentality in sports is there's a lot of blending and overlap between your mentality playing sports and your mentality in your personal life, where if you have like a positive outlook on things in your personal life, it's probably going to translate to a positive outlook in your life in baseball.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. I don't let no negative thoughts occur in my head ever. Like, you never want to. Actually, Don Long, our hitting coach, he told us, like, if you tell yourself it's like a negative comment, it's like 10 times more powerful than if you were to tell yourself a positive one, which makes sense, because like when you tell yourself like oh man, I suck on this day or something like that, like you just pounding yourself like more into the ground. So it's like you just got to keep filling yourself with positivity.
Yeah. Getting to a bit of the kind of nitty gritty, I guess, of the mental side of baseball, when you're up in an at bat, what's kind of your general approach for the mental side of the game? Like, are you rehearsing in your mind, like what you're planning to do? Are you trying to just almost kind of not think about things at all to a certain degree? What's kind of, I guess, your standard mental routine or mental script at an at bat?
Yeah, I try not to think when I'm up to bat, because that's when I'm like not at my best. I just react like as an athlete, like what I see and my reactions. But yeah, like when I come into the box in a game, I just try to get a good pitch to hit over the plate, and if I miss it, like, all right, I can't miss the next one. Yeah. So I got another pitch. So if you miss one time, you still got 2 more strikes with. So
yeah,
I look at that way, but you might not get a hanger as much to hit later on at bat. But you just battle every pitch. Yeah. You don't take a pitch off. That's one thing I've learned. Miguel Cabrera said that, and he's one of the greatest hitters like to ever play this game. If you're focused like 100% locked in on every pitch, you'll have way more success that way than, and only you can tell that, because you're the one in the box. Say like if your intensity or focus wasn't there on one pitch, that's one pitch you let go. And that's possibly a pitch that you probably missed right down the middle or took.
Yeah. The reason why the baseball at bat is so interesting to me, because kind of compared it to when I'm playing tennis at the moment, when I'm playing tennis and like we're going through like a rally or something, one thing I do to myself to like not let me overthink is I'm constantly saying like ball hit to myself. So every time the ball bounces, I say ball. Every time somebody hits the ball, I say hit. So me saying ball hit takes my mind off the match, and I don't like overthink things. But at a baseball at bat, it's just like, it's almost like time stops for a second. Like everything's on a pause. So I got it. Like, it was always interesting to me what baseball players kind of think in that scenario, where it's almost like there's nothing to kind of focus your mind on, to a certain sense, take your mind off things. But like you said, the kind of things you did and things you learned from Miggy seem to have helped you quite a lot so far.
Yeah, definitely. As long as you stay positive and like not think about negatives, like you'll always bounce back. Like even if you're like 0 for 3 in a game, you're like your fourth. You want that 4th or 5th at bat, because that might be the biggest bat of the whole game. Like you have a chance to win the game. So just because you mess up in the first inning, you get out in the first inning, I see a lot of young guys get down themselves. Like you still got 3 or 4 at bats like still left in the game. Like you could turn that 0 for 1 to 3 for 4 by staying locked in and not getting down yourself like real quick.
Yeah. Is there a game or, a time in your career where you look back on and maybe these were some things that like you had struggled with maybe a bit, and you kind of look back on it as a learning experience, like whether there was an at bat or a big game where you felt like you let the mental side kind of get the best of you?
Yeah, I would say in minor league ball. I definitely had some moments where I went on like a 1 for 15 or something like that, like a couple bad games in a row. I'll be like I was a victim to it, and because minor league, you're so worried about your stats and getting called up and like doing well, performing in front of people. But once I let that stuff go, I feel like I was a player that I've always been growing up. So me just not even thinking about what's going to happen the next day or the day before, and just thinking about on that day, just focus on it like in that moment. I feel like that helped me a lot with like moving on to the next game, getting ready for that next at bat, make an error. That next ball is coming to you expecting it. Just all that was so powerful for me, and I feel like I never got down on myself as much.
Being in the family of a former Major League Baseball player, being your dad, growing up, was this something that you guys focused on as well, the mental side of the game?
Yeah. My dad was huge on that. He was huge on the mental side. He always would say, "Don't bring your bat out to the field because you don't want to take away from your defense." And the same thing applies, bringing your defense into hitting. He always would tell me separate the two, just so you can show that you're a complete player, because you don't want to have just one side and not the other.
That's got to be something that I think a lot of kids might struggle with, is not taking their bat onto the field, because they kind of get caught up in like the stats of like the home runs, the RBIs, the batting average and everything like that, where they might place more of a focus on the offensive stats versus the defensive, where in the grand scheme of things, I mean, they're both equally as important to the game of baseball. There's an offense and defense on the field at the same time. Yeah. And I think that really shows a lot of mental maturity in players when they're able to, again, kind of understand the whole aspect of baseball, like putting a lot of emphasis on the defensive side of the game. And just because you're having a bad game in the offensive side doesn't mean you can't contribute in other ways as well.
Yeah, definitely. Even if you're not contributing on offense or defense, you might be able to like draw a walk or something and do something base running wise, or helping a teammate out, seeing if he's tipping a pitch or something like that. Just little things like that you can always do to help the team win, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Listen, man, before we wrap up here, one thing I want to get your sense on is, through your whole time with the Jays organization, the Orioles organization, being around all these pros, and you yourself learning about the mental side of the game, for the younger kids out there that are looking to make that kind of next step to the professional league, or maybe playing some college ball, what's one part of the mental side of the game that you feel like can really make a difference for some younger kids?
I feel like we kind of went over that. One side, just like I said, like not focusing on like outside stuff, like where you're getting drafted, like trying to get this Division I scholarship. If you just like work on your craft and like really work on yourself and practice hard and practice smart, and do your 1/9 during your games, I feel like that everything else will take care of itself. Yeah. And if you try to dwell on the outside stuff, and it really affects you, it really affects you on the field, and you don't want that to happen. So you just want to separate, like I said, separate those two again.
Yeah.
I feel like if you just take care of what you need to take care of, like in between the lines and off the field as well too, you'll be just fine.
You coming up kind of like the beginning of 2010, 2011, social media wasn't the thing it is right now, but yeah. I always think about like kids today, like with how big social media is and everything, like, yeah. And it kind of like as the years go on, the spotlight gets on kids younger and younger. Like now, like you'll see kids in high school getting so much media hype and everything. And I always sympathize or empathize, whatever the correct word is, but I always feel sorry for the kids that come up and they have like, 400,000 or 500,000 followers on Instagram, and they're an elite athlete, and you just know like they're just getting hounded in their comments all the time. There's some good comments and stuff, but there's also some bad ones.
Yeah, it's definitely different now with all this social media attention. Like I've seen like basketball, they're getting like so much, they're getting more hype than college basketball players. Yeah. And it's like, wow, this is kind of crazy how this went. And but I would honestly turn your phone off. That would like as soon as I would play my music going into like going to games and stuff, and then by the time like I hop off that bus, I shut my phone off for that 2 or 3 hours, however long we're out there for that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else could wait. Like, I'm not looking at no phone, not looking at no Twitter, not checking no scores or nothing. Just focus on that game. Like, your focus will, like, you'll see your focus, like, change, and you'll be so much better off if you just, like, turn off your phone at certain moments when you got to get stuff done.
That's something you did in the minors as well, or was it only when you first came into the majors?
I did it in the minors as well too,
Yeah.
and then I started doing it in the majors, like, because, like, you would get, like, texts and calls before games and stuff. Like, all right, there was, like, a certain point, like, for a 7 o'clock game, I would start getting ready, like, around, as soon as I come off of BP, like, around 5:30ish. And then, like, I would go shower, get my uniform on, and get something to eat. And then I would just be listening to my music, just trying to relax, turn off every notification, and just focus on, like, getting loose in the weight room and what I got to do against this pitcher. Like, even if it's looking at video, getting ready, get my swing loose in the cage for a little bit. But all my attention was, like, focused on those 3 hours or however long we were playing for that night.
Yeah. I really like that point, because I think humans, like, by nature, I think, are obviously, like, social people. Like, we strive on, like, being social with people, but there's a time and place for that as well. And I'm sure there's so many kids that get caught up, like, right into the first pitch, they're on their phone looking at their Instagram comments or their Twitter replies or something. And I think as the world kind of evolves and social media becomes more of an outlet for news and everything, that it gets that much more important to block it out when it's not necessary.
Yeah, that stuff's always going to be there, but, like, your career is going to be there way less than what social media is going to be. So if you could just focus on 24 hours out of that day, just those 3 hours or 4 hours, however long, you'll be so much better off. And I've actually heard stories about, like LeBron James, like, before he goes to the playoffs, he go into, like, 0 dark 30 mode.
Yeah,
like, last, like, 10 games before the playoffs. He literally shuts off his every social media handle, and he's not even on it, like, the whole playoffs. And then he's just playing. That's why he's so great at what he does, because he's not focused on any outside noise, and he has everybody talking about him, about bad or good games. So he can't. Imagine if he looked at all the stuff that people are saying. Like,
he's probably the most scrutinized athlete, like, in the history of sports.
Yeah, for sure. So I would definitely have to. I probably would have threw my phone in the water, like, if I was him. But him doing that, like, really shows what kind of athlete he really is and how much he's, like, up there with his mental.
Yeah. And it's good. It's another good point that you brought up there, that, like, he's doing this 10 or 15 games before the playoffs starts. He's not waiting for the playoffs to start and, like, to read that one bad comment and think, like, okay, this is the time where I shut it off. Like, he's being proactive rather than reactive. And I think that's another good mental lesson for a lot of kids out there, is to be proactive with your approach to things and not reactive. Don't wait for things to get bad to work on them while they're good, so they stay good. Yeah,
definitely, for sure. 100%.
Listen, man, appreciate you taking some time today. Best of luck, of course, the rest of the show, Turney. It's been fun to watch, and you've been killing it out there with the Orioles, so that's cool to see. But hopefully the season kind of gets started again soon, and we can see you get back out on the diamond again pretty soon.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get back on the diamond. I got a lot of energy waiting to get on that field, and hopefully I'll close out with some wins in this tournament and slip in the playoffs, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah. It's MLB The Show. For me, at least, it would be another way to work on my mental side of the game. Because, like I said before, like, when I play that game, I'm surprised I haven't broken 10 controllers yet, because it's the most frustrating game I've ever played in my life.
Yeah. The fielding on here is definitely tough, but they got a couple things they need to iron out. But I've been playing the game for, like, quite a bit, so, like, and it's the only baseball game we get to play since they took away MVP. So I enjoy it though.
You ever played the Diamond Dynasty part of it?
Oh yeah. I got a team. I got a pretty good team.
That one kind of messes with me too, because I'll be like, even if I feel like I take, like, 1 or 2 days off of grinding that out, I feel like I'm so behind everyone else.
Everybody's always getting cards, diamond cards, and all that stuff. So like, I've seen people get, like, people already, like, golds and, like, on their meters. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all must not sleep because I can't do that.
There was a guy I saw where he had like all those face of the franchise cards. He had like all 30 of them, and I'm like, man, I can't even compete with this. Like,
no, like that's a lot of gaming. Like you definitely don't sleep if you got all those cards and like when the game dropped like 2 months ago or something like that.
100%. Listen, Dwight, again, thanks for taking your time, man. I was a huge fan of you with the Jays, and still wish you the best of success when you guys don't play the Jays, and maybe when you guys play the Jays, I won't wish too much success for you. But other than that, wish you obviously the best for the season and seasons to come. And again, appreciate you taking some time today.
All right. Appreciate that.
All right, man. Take care.
All right.